Gentlemen, my fellow Rezolvians, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to be going over my expectations for Rezolve in this upcoming week, some of the major events for this market this week, including earnings, economic data, but again, most importantly, my thoughts around this stock in particular. Now, you can also extrapolate this if you don't exactly own Rezolve or you're not heavily overweight in Rezolve, but maybe you own other AI small cap companies. Well, what I'm going to say in this video goes for those stocks as well. So that's what we're going to get into. We're also going to talk. I had a lot of comments about the video yesterday where Amazon is looking to partner with third-party providers for AI chatbots and agentic AI commerce technology in the coming months. And there was a lot of people that had questions on what a buyout of Rezolve would look like if Amazon wanted to buy Rezolve. And we'll talk about that as well in today's episode and just dive into that a little bit more in depth. So hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Check that link out down below if you guys want to come join the trading community where we are going out not to invest in the stocks that are up 1,000% in the past year, but we want to find the stocks that are going to go up 1,000% in the next year, okay? We're looking for the under-the-radar opportunities Wall Street is ignoring. Identifying, investigating, investing, and executing in those stocks. Come join us, link down below. But with that said, let's get into today's episode. And I really want to start this video off with my overall expectations for Rezolve and this market. Now, I think Rezolve is in a very unique situation where, agentic AI commerce is starting to be talked about a little bit more, okay? It's not like quantum. Everyone knows about quantum. Everyone knows about GPUs, right? Some of these themes are, I wouldn't call it played out, but well understood. Agentic AI is something that is newer, okay? OpenAI and their product, okay, they're a privately traded company, so they're not even on the public markets, but there's starting to be more conversation around agentic AI specifically. And I do think as kind of a broader perspective, there's going to be this wave of agentic AI where agentic AI companies for commerce specifically are going to get the attention that maybe they deserve. Rezolve is the cheapest AI stock on the marketplace today, partially because, there's not a lot of people that know about Rezolve, number one, but also agentic AI is something that is so new that a lot of people, most people have almost no experience with this. But it's one of those things that's going to grow to be something that everyone knows about, right? You're going to be interacting with AI chatbots and image search and checkout features of agentic AI for the rest of your life, okay? It's going to be the biggest thing to hit digital e-commerce. And while there has been, again, some attention around this, I've heard one fund manager, she actually said she's most bullish on agentic AI because there's going to be so much disruption. There's going to be so much growth in this area versus other areas of AI, like large language models, for an example, that are pretty played out. Okay, so that's specifically on Rezolve. Over the next couple of months, call it the next 12 months, you're going to see a little bit more attention to this area. Now, Rezolve is the cheapest AI stock on the markets. It's cheaper than any other stock out there. Okay, now being a cheap stock doesn't always mean that's a good stock. Here's the differential, okay? It really has to do with growth, okay? Rezolve is trading at less than 3 times sales. Dirt cheap for an AI company. Anthropic is trading at 40 times sales. OpenAI trades at around 100 times sales. Even Palantir trades at 70 times sales. Why is Rezolve at 3 times sales? Well, it's because Not too many people know about Rezolve because not too many people know agentic AI in commerce exists. Okay, I'm expecting that is going to change in the coming months. So that's obviously going to be a good thing. Now, Rezolve is a pretty new company to be listed on markets. It technically got listed back in August of 2024, but the delisting, de-SPACing process really ended in August of 2025. So the company has really only been listed on markets for about 3 months without the restrictions from the de-SPACing. So over the next couple of months, I'm expecting the stock is going to do very well. Rezolve is projected to grow at over 300% next year. You know, if you were asking somebody or looking at stocks that are trading at 3 times sales, you would mostly be looking at healthcare companies that are growing at 4% a year, that pay a 2% dividend, right? Not companies that are growing at 300% a year. That's how significantly undervalued the company is. Now, if you want to break apart the business, and this is what is interesting, this is the argument that I made in the prior video where we were talking about a potential buyout from Amazon. You could make the argument that Amazon would want to buy Rezolve just for the large language model. Forget everything else. Rezolve's large language model is worth more than the company's total value today. Okay, Rezolve's large language model that is competing or beating ChatGPT, Claude, all of your leading models today that cost hundreds of billions of dollars to develop in specifically retail metrics, okay, which is Amazon's specific ballpark. Rezolve, the whole business, is trading at $1.3 billion. This is almost like if a holdings company that invests in hotels and casinos and theme parks and XYZ was trading at $1 billion for valuation, but owned $5 billion of Bitcoin. It makes no sense, right? The assets Rezolve holds are worth substantially more than the company itself. But it's not like you trade large language models on a exchange, okay? So a little bit different than the Bitcoin analogy, but you get the idea. From Amazon's perspective, it makes a lot of sense to, one, partner with Rezolve. That's an obvious one. There can be a lot of synergies there that make sense. But I think even more than that would be a buyout of Rezolve. I hope we don't have a buyout of Rezolve. I actually, when I initially bought Rezolve around $2 per share, today the stock is $4.33. Again, if you guys want to come get in early on some of these stocks, and I think we're still early, but other stocks, not just Rezolve, when we do, check that link out down below in the description of today's episode. A buyout would obviously be good in the short term, but I think Rezolve has a lot more upside potential as a standalone company. Now, here's the good and bad, okay? The CEO of Rezolve owns like 20-ish% of shares. So there's heavy insider ownership in this company. The insiders are going to make the final decision. It's not going to be you as a shareholder. If the company wants to sell, they will sell. Dan Wagner kind of has a history of selling companies. He builds them up and sells them like most entrepreneurs do. But a buyout with Rezolve would work like this. Amazon would say, hey, we'll give you $9 a share to buy the company. The stock would shoot up to $9 a share, $8, $7, $10, $20, whatever the number is, and it would just stay there until the stock is officially bought out. That's how a buyout works. Again, if we want to throw numbers out there, it would be anywhere from $7, I think, on the low side to $9, $10, $15, $12 maybe on the higher end side. Again, I think the stock could be hundreds of dollars in the future. They're we'll see. But I could see some pretty dramatic upside with Rezolve. That's why when I first bought the stock, a buyout was one of the risk factors I had that could limit the upside potential of the company. Normally, buyouts are really good. And in this case, it would cause the stock to go up a lot quickly, but it would be doing a disservice to where I think the company's growth and potential could ultimately be long term. Again, the company has already set guidance for $500 million in ARR next year. That's pretty incredible for a company that started at zero in early 2025. The market is big enough for many, many different players. A lot of people ask, oh, what about OpenAI? Do you think they're a problem? If Rezolve was the dominant player, like back in the day when Intel was the dominant player in the CPU market, but then you had AMD eating market share, if Rezolve was the Intel of that market, yes, that would be a problem. But this market is plenty big enough for everyone. And the fact of the matter is, with Rezolve, there's one of two things happening, or both. Either the markets do not believe Rezolve is going to hit the numbers of $500 million in ARR next year. If they do, that's big upside from here, right? Or, which I think is more likely, because I don't think Wall Street necessarily disbelieves Rezolve, I just don't think a lot of people know about Rezolve. I think that's the reason why the stock is undervalued versus Wall Street just doesn't believe the company. Typically, Wall Street believes what companies say because that's more or less like credible information. Now, with that said, I do think we're going to see a change in this market. If you guys watched the last video, Tom Lee said he's expecting a little bit of chop into the end of the year for the headline S&P. Now, I believe as volatility continues to come down, like we've watched for a while, the VIX EQ is very high. This is the VIX equal weight. It started to really rise around September 11th, hit a high here on October 10th, also hit a high here on October 29th, and you've started to come down a little bit. Now you're below 40, but I think you're going to see a lot of volatility collapse as we get further into earnings season, and that's going to trigger a lot of algorithmic buying pressure. That's going to trigger more buying from investors generally as fear goes away. We've had a lot of good catalysts recently. The Fed was bullish. If you don't understand why, just watch the last video. We talk about this. But the Fed was bullish, ended QT, started QE. Trump just lowered tariffs on China by 10%. Sounds like he wants to lower tariffs further on China. We'll see what happens with that. But hyperscaler earnings and the AI story is alive and well. All of that hasn't really helped the small cap area, especially not the small cap AI area. When you have a company like Rezolve that's trading at 3 times price to sales, dirt cheap, it's a little different than if you have a quantum company that is doing 12 million in revenue that's trading at a $15 billion market cap. Like, what is that price to sales? In the hundreds, at least? So you want to be a little bit careful with what companies you're deploying your capital in right now. This is not a market you just want to, put your life savings in the highest flyers, okay? Rezolve is not the highest flyer. The stock is barely known at all by anyone, retail, let alone institutions, in agentic AI commerce, which is going to be a massive market. Already a multi-$100 billion market a year. It's just really, can Rezolve execute on that? And based on the guidance that we have, the stock is dirt cheap, and I think the company more or less will be able to execute. The company said on their last earnings call that they set guidance to actually hit guidance and, beat guidance, right? Which is pretty obvious. Now, if you guys have not done so already, go ahead and check out this post from Rezolve. Rezolve AI says in just 12 months, Mintra achieved a remarkable 35% year-over-year growth in image search traffic. I posted here and said, can we get a PR for a contract? This post or comment from myself has 428 views, but 69 likes. If you want to send a message to the company that we want to hear about contracts, not just bullshit, growth numbers here with partnerships, like this really doesn't have any effect to Rezolve. Okay. If you want to send the company a message that they're going to pay attention to, go like this comment. I'll like my own comment, kind of lame, but we'll make it an even 70. Okay. Go like this comment if you want to send a message to Rezolve. We want to see the contracts that you are signing. Okay. Dude, this comment has 70 likes. The whole post from Rezolve has 65 likes. My comment that you guys have been liking has more likes than the whole post from Rezolve. That is sending a very clear message, and that is going to help the company give investors what they want, which is actual news. Now, in this upcoming week, I am expecting, again, there is some large earnings. Palantir, Hims and Hers, Novitas, in after hours on Monday. Uber, Shopify, Spotify, Pfizer, okay, BP, Ferrari, you get the idea. Tuesday, AMD, Arista, Supermicro, Beyond Meat, Upstart, Axon, and Pinterest. Wednesday, Novo Nordisk, Humana, McDonald's, Unity, DigitalOcean, Recursion. Wednesday and after hours, Robinhood, IONQ, AppLovin, AMC, Dutch Bros, Qualcomm, ARM, Snapchat, Elf. Thursday, D-Wave, ConocoPhillips, Vistra Energy, AstraZeneca, Datadog, Warner Bros, Moderna. Thursday and after hours, The Trade Desk, Open Door, Iris Energy, SoundHound, DraftKings, NewScale, Archer, InnoData, and Airbnb. And then Friday, you have Constellation, Wendy's, so on and so forth. Now, in this week as well, we're going to have a lot of survey data. Again, we're not getting BLS data, but ISM manufacturing PMIs, you're going to get that on Monday. You're not going to get factory orders, JOLTS job openings, what we would have gotten on Tuesday because the government shut down. But we do get ISM services PMIs on Wednesday. On Thursday, you get a bunch of Fed speakers. And then on Friday, you get the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. So there's going to be some data that markets are going to react to. Overall, we want to get the government reopened again. Once the government reopens again, that's when I think you start to get that explosive upside, because there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of Wall Street that is nervous around the government being shut down and how that's affecting the economy. And let's be honest, I think company earnings, like credit card companies and banks and, discretionary companies, they're a lot more telling to how the economy is actually doing. But the fact of the matter is, Wall Street, they love BLS data. I think it's very inaccurate. I think the BLS is probably the worst, place to hang your hat if you're trying to figure out how the economy is doing per se. But Wall Street loves it, and there's more and more uncertainty now. The government being shut down for a little while didn't really hurt, but it's starting to get to a point where people are like, come on now, we need some certainty on this. We can only last for so long in the dark. I don't think we're in the dark because I pay a lot of attention to earnings, but a lot of Wall Street is under that assumption. So again, as Tom Lee said, he's expecting the S&P to kind of chill out, go through a little bit of chop here, and I think that's probably true. I think Mag 7 stocks are going to probably stop going straight up and trade sideways for a little while. But I think it's going to be the small cap, the AI areas, the more quote-unquote hypey areas that start to do a lot better. Now, you want to be in the best hypey areas, which you can call it Rezolve if you want, but you want to be in the high quality, high growth, undervalued areas, which is Rezolve by definition. I mean, Rezolve is undervalued, low valuation, hyper growth, and we'll see if it gets hypey anytime soon, but it would be a worthwhile hypey, right? There's a lot of room for Rezolve to go up. Rezolve could be a $15 to $20 stock right now, and on a valuation perspective, you wouldn't call it a hype stock, which is crazy because the company's less than $5 a share today. It's less than $4.50 per share today. And that's just how much, in my opinion, of a cushion we have with the stock. Also, I talked about in one of the prior videos, Rezolve has a triple bottom that is formed at $4.06. For 3 days now, it's hit the same level, $4.06 on October 22nd. on October 30th and on October 31st. This is also finding a lot of support at the 100-day moving average, so do not be surprised if we get a pretty sharp bounce from that level. And if you guys continue to go out and like my comment on this post from Rezolve, the more people like it, the more attention it's going to get, the more the company is going to see. We want contracts. Instead of putting out these kind of bullshit press releases, the company's going to see, hey, maybe investors want to hear about contracts. Maybe Rezolve didn't even know that, like, we want to hear about every contract. $40,000, $50,000, $100,000. I would rather hear about those contracts than PRs like this. So go like that comment. Go, do your part to spread the information back to the company so they understand. But yeah, pretty remarkable work that you guys are also contributing to this. Before I said anything on the channel about liking this, it had like almost 50 likes. So from the last video, over 20 of you guys went out and liked this. Let's see if we can get this to like 200 likes. Like, we should send a message with this. So if you own Rezolve and you want the stock to go up, you want the company to put out good press releases, not bullshit ones, go like this. It's the last post on Rezolve AI's X account. Impossible to miss. Okay, so those are kind of my thoughts. Again, into the end of the year, I could see the stock $10, $15, $20 a share, but it really depends on the news flow, the state of the markets, and all of that, which is impossible to predict at this point. But like, the downside is very limited in my personal opinion, right? Because of the valuation. And that is why I continue to buy the stock. I view the downside as, we are much more likely to see the stock double from here than to fall another 50% from here, or to fall another 30% from here. You're more likely to see the stock double, just again, because of what we talked about in this video. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. If you guys want to come trade with us, again, check that link out down below. Get yourself $100 in your choice of free stock. In Rezolve's case, that's what, almost 25 free shares of Rezolve. If you sign up with the link down below in the description of this video for Public, deposit $1,000 and Public will give you $100 in your choice of free stock, around 25 free shares of Rezolve. So that's it. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.